The next question. I'm a teacher of conflict resolution. Love my job. I adore it. In a public school setting, this is my 4th year, and I brought through all 3 curriculums of stories and role plays that teach that concept. And what's the wonderful opportunity is I teach pivoting to my students, and they get it. And I can bring in some Abraham concepts without, it's a Baptist Bible Belt area, so I mean, I'm very careful.
Oh, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But what I don't quite get is I have several students that are in love, like, for example, I was teaching pivoting to my 6th graders. And one of the boys said, well, my pivot is beating up other people. And I was showing them the continuum. This is a chain of pain. This is a chain of joy. Reach for the thought that feels good. What is a good pivot for you? And he finally came up with bikinis and so forth. But he was really on to this beating up other people. And that was the pivot for him. And I said, but that's chain of pain because it's bringing pain to other people. He says, but it feels good to me. And I'm wondering.
Well, now let's talk about why. So
Yeah.
if you ask him the question, talking about dominant vibration. So if you say, what feels better to you? To be controlled by others or to be in control yourself?
He would say in control.
To be in control.
Yeah.
And that's what that's translating out to be. In other words, in a very simplistic way, what he's saying is nobody's going to... He's talking about freedom. He's talking about directing his own life. He's talking about not being tromped on by other people. In other words, he's reaching... His motives are very pure in all of that. And so that's why you can't write a book that says this action is always wrong or this attitude is always wrong, because for him, that, in other words, that's why the idea of packing a gun feels like a positive thing to many people, because it gives them, which feels better, vulnerability or having a gun? And you say, well, having a gun is a terrible thing. And they say it's not as bad as feeling vulnerable.
Yeah.
You get a sense?
So I guess what I'm wondering is, how do I soothe them more into their alignment when their dominant idea is they would like to use forms of violence or aggression, strong aggression, to counteract?
Well, the first thing that we would do is always give them the benefit of the doubt, because they're always right. In other words, they're in charge of their life, and what they're choosing is right. And so when you say to someone, when someone in your classroom setting says, well, beating up on someone is what feels good to me, it's like, if you are in a place of tremendous struggle, then beating up on someone feels better than getting beat up on. And that is incrementally better. And that's the only place this one can go. In other words, you're wanting him to go from agony all the way to ecstasy, and he can't make that big of a jump. This is as big a jump as he can make. And that has to be a fine jump as far as you are concerned. In other words, you can't make judgment about his choices. You have to understand why that feels better than that. And so as you look at him and you say, as opposed to what? In other words, as he said, beating up on other people, that's what feels good to me. And then you might say, as compared to what? And as he says, as compared to them beating up on me, or as compared to them thinking badly of me, or as compared to them disapproving of me, then you might say, oh, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, that is a better choice. You heard us here today offering all kinds of those options. In other words, you're just reaching for the thought that feels better and reaching for the thought that feels better. If you said to him, well, wouldn't you really like it if everyone just loved everyone and got along with everyone? He'd say, get real. He'd say, what planet are you from?
I'd say, that's no fun.
And he might even say, that's no fun. And you couldn't convince that the people who are going into battle. In other words, there's all kinds of people that believe they're making the world a better place. In other words, this is their idea of nobility. Who are the people that you most honor in your society? What are the most monuments about? The biggest monuments, the most statues, even in your physical environment, are about people tromping other people. Those are your heroes, in other words. And the reason that they are heroes is because those who are making them the hero see the alternative as being trampled yourself. Yeah. You see. That's why your nation is, for the most part, really behind taking any means necessary, even if it means destroying whole other nations, because they fear the idea of terrorism. And so he's not speaking anything different than what almost everybody in your nation is voting yes for on those polls. You see.
Yeah.